to talk about how you can add a treasure trove of Delta blues licks to your guitar style. I'm going to show you some authentic acoustic Delta blues and then show you how to take those ideas and transfer them over to electric really easily without having to change tunings and all that kind of kerfuffle. All right, so years ago I was backstage at a show and one of the crew members I was talking to had previously been one of the roadies with the Allman Brothers. So naturally we got talking about guitars and he said to me something that has always stuck with me. He said, you know, playing slide guitar is all smoke and mirrors. So I asked him, you know, what he meant by that. And he proceeded to pull out this amazing, beautiful custom Les Paul tuned to open E. And he started demonstrating all these amazing Duane Allman licks. Well, it sounded incredible. And it was a real light bulb moment for me. But what did he mean when he said smoke and mirrors? Well, I don't think he really meant it's easy to play slide guitar or that it's some kind of a trick. But I think what he meant was slide playing is magic. And with a little medicine bottle and a little sleight of hand, you can create some absolutely amazing results. So if you want to truly understand slide, you know, the thing is you've got to go back to the source, right? You've got to look at people like Robert Johnson. So he's often hailed as the king of the Delta blues. And he's kind of the archetype of this style. And, you know, of course, he drew his inspiration from other players like Son House and Charlie Patton. But Robert Johnson sort of took those influences and he transformed it into something that was just absolutely amazing and eventually just kind of went around the world and inspired so much music. So, you know, take a song like Come On In My Kitchen. That's that style, right? That's the Delta blues style. You better come on in my kitchen. There's going to be rain outdoors. So in a minute, I'll show you some tricks how to take that idea and translate it onto electric guitar, you know, just like players like Eric Clapton did in the 60s. But first, let's look at the roots a little bit. So Robert Johnson often played in open G tuning, which was called Spanish tuning. And sometimes he'd tune it up to an open A. So this is an open A tuning I've got right here. So basically these two strings are the same. This is E, this is A. And then the D string, the fourth string is tuned up to an E. Then the G string is tuned up to an A. And then the B string is a C sharp up. So those are up a whole step. And then the top string is the same. So it's tuned to an A chord like that, right? And then when you're playing that, if you just go up to the 12th fret, there's an A chord, here's a D chord, here's an E chord. So everything's right there under the bar. And the Delta blues style can generally be divided into two different styles. So first is the kind of dead thumb Delta style, where you keep this kind of steady beat going with your thumb, and then you kind of play the melody with your fingers. And that's the style that Robert Johnson played in a lot. And it's almost like the slide is mimicking the sound of the harmonica, creating this kind of back and forth effect like when you're drawing on the harmonica. So basically that gives you this kind of sound. So the idea there is you just kind of keep the thumb going like this, playing the downbeats, and then on the upbeats you're playing the melody notes. So you kind of keep this little rhythm going. So I'll show you that in a second. I'll show you some examples based around Robert Johnson's playing. But that's the basic idea, is just back and forth. And then the second style is a more articulate style where you're using the alternating the thumb. All right, so when you're learning this style of music, it's really important to kind of be able to zoom in and zoom out as part of this learning process and examine different kind of levels of detail, right? Because otherwise you might really miss some things. I've seen a lot of guys play where they really kind of zoom in and focus on the lead licks and the tone or maybe the equipment, and then lose sight of the overall effect of the music. Like, for example, the structure of the music, like understanding, you know, the form of the music or understanding some of the theory behind it. And when you put all those things together, it's really, really powerful. So the first thing you got to do is kind of zoom out and understand the basics. The chord progression, the feel, the tempo. You know, with Delta blues, it's solo and improvised. So it can be kind of tricky to understand because when you listen to it, it can almost seem formless. Like when you listen to Robert Johnson, he'd be like changing beat, he'd be going from swung to straight, all these kinds of different intricacies. So it's important to kind of like step back and go, okay, what's really going on? You know, what's the tempo, the time signature? So you basically want to identify, you know, is it a 12 bar? Is it an 8 bar? Is it a 16 bar? Is there a quick change in there? Is there a turnaround? And understanding that stuff, one, it'll really help you be able to perform and play the songs way better because you'll have this foundation. But also, it enables you to play with other people. And ultimately, that's the most important thing. So, for example, Come On In My Kitchen is basically like an 8-bar blues, right? Like, you know, when Robert Johnson's playing it, he's just kind of implying the chords and playing these slide licks, right? But if you start by just, you know, being able to kind of play the basic song, you know, well, the woman I love stole my best friend. Some joker got lucky and stole her back again. You know, play it like that. That gives you a really great foundation and understanding of the song. And then next, you want to be able to zoom in and learn specific licks and hooks, right? And really be speaking the language of the blues. You know, so for example, the specific riffs of these songs, like in Come On In My Kitchen, it's got this riff. So that's integral to that song. You know, a lot of the other stuff is improvised in it, but you've got to be able to really nail those specific riffs. So that riff, for example, you just slide up to the 5th fret and then down the pentatonic scale. That's a big part of the language of the blues, is learning those specific archetypal licks. But remember, the art of the blues is always about improvisation. So when you're playing the blues, what you want to do is be bringing something old and something new. So the old is those specific licks and references, those kind of beloved elements that come from the past, the familiar melodies and hooks. When people hear that, they really kind of resonate. And it's like the way music works is when you hear a certain lick that you've heard before, it gives you that kind of dopamine hit of like you recognize it and you place it and it has this echoic effect where it triggers memories of certain songs. But then when you add something new that no one's ever heard before and you mix things up and you create something that's unexpected, it adds an element of delight to the music. And that's one of the real keys to being a great musician, is that balance between predictable and unpredictable. That's the magic of music, is mixing all that together. So take Crossroads, for example. It's a fascinating song because when you listen to the original Robert Johnson one, there's 2 versions of it, but it's very free form. It's very driven by the vocal. And, you know, the guitar's kind of mimicking a, you know, harmonica. That one's played in B and kind of has this sound. All right, I'll grab the electric. So if you want to play these songs on electric guitar, here's a great trick. What we're going to do is just keep all the tuning exactly the same, but you're just going to drop this one string, the high E string, down to a D. And this creates kind of a hybrid tuning where all the strings are the same as usual, but also the top 4 strings are exactly the same as Spanish tuning or open G. So you get the best of both worlds. So you can play bar chords and power chords all down here with using your normal fingerings. And then you can use the slide and play your Delta blues style licks. So when you're playing in this tuning, the real magic of it is the pentatonic scale is right under your fingertips. So say you're playing in the key of G. So the pentatonic scale is right here at the 12th fret. And basically you're just toggling between the 12th fret and the 10th fret. So you just go. So that's how you play the pentatonic scale. So you start on fret 12, go down to 10, and then you go over to fret 11 on the B string, back to fret 12 on the G string, and down to fret 10. And that's how you can get those kind of Dwayne Allman sounding licks, is by toggling between those two different kind of positions, right here and right here, and all the kind of myriad of micro tones in between those two, and you can get these really cool sounding licks. So a couple of advantages here. One is you can just play your basic pentatonic licks with the slide, and the fingerings on the D, G, and B strings stay exactly the same. So you can have this. So you can play exactly the same licks as you normally would. You can just literally walk up and down the pentatonic scale. But on the top string, when you play the top first and second strings, you get that open tuning sound, which is the sound of a third. It gives you that harmonica sound. Normally the guitar is tuned in fourths, right? And parallel fourths in music have this kind of interesting sound where the human ear doesn't really like to hear too much of that in a row. It starts to kind of grate on the ear, which is why normal open tuning doesn't work as well for slide guitar. But when you have it tuned where the slide falls over the sound of a major third, it just has an awesome sound. And you can just slide that around. It's a killer sound. So when you combine those two things of just the basic patterns that you're used to playing, say in the key of E, or say in the key of A, like doing crossroads, for example. When you're playing in the key of A, your pentatonic scale's right here over the A chord. Or you can play it down here as well, in your regular position. So with that simple trick of just dropping down the first string to a D, you get all those cool Delta blues licks right within reach. So I hope this video has been helpful, and check out Robert Johnson and Sunhouse and Charlie Patton and some of those amazing players. It's amazing, transcendent music, and when you sit back and listen to it with headphones on, it just transports you to another place in time. Hope you have fun playing with the slide, and remember to give us a subscribe and like, and I'd love to hear who your favorite Delta blues players are, who your favorite slide players are. Let us know in the comments. And thanks for watching, and remember, turn it up.